Very well. Thank you. I thank the proponent. Madam Speaker, what we have before us is a bill that adds nothing to the authority of the local school boards. It poses some sanctions that we're not really sure of. What it does do is simply take away this choice from the local school board when they have the full power to include students now at any level they want. And I'm always concerned when we impose a requirement but are vague about the sanctions. We don't really know what we're exposing local school boards to if they don't follow this. What if they remove the members, the student members, as was pursued in the last colloquy with the proponent? We understand that the student members cannot be removed except on the same terms as regular members. Well, that seems to me to elevate the student election, which we don't really detail, but we anticipate, in effect, has the same status as a public election, because the school board members, once in office, whether they be students or citizens, cannot be removed except by the same standards. I also am concerned about these questions of representative constituencies. In the towns I represent, there are teachers who do not live in the community. In fact, there's a large number of students that don't, of teachers who do not live in the town. Well, who is more of a stakeholder than the teachers? We don't insist that the teachers be represented on the school boards. And what about other employees of the boards of education? What about the maintenance staff? In many cases, they don't live in our community, but they certainly are stakeholders in the system. And what about parents? Well, based upon our local experience, many of the school board members are in fact parents, but there's no requirement they be parents. There's no requirement that any of them be parents. Well, now, who has a more significant stake in the school system than the parents? But we don't require that school boards have parents as members, voting or non-voting. I think that the constituency argument, while an interesting one and in some contexts quite persuasive, is misapplied in this context. In the end, what this comes down to is a requirement on our local school boards to perform something, to do something they now have the power to do, but they have the power to do in their own judgment. I think that is a usurpation of local control, unwarranted by any persuasive need. I also am troubled, as I mentioned, by the lack of specificity in the sanction. School board members now must wonder what they do, even if they think it's inadvisable. They don't do this. So in summary, this accomplishes nothing except to intrude on the traditional authority of the local school boards. It exposes them to risks that we can't define because we don't know what the sanctions are. It's a proposal whose goal is elusive and whose consequences are uncertain. And I would respectfully urge all my colleagues to vote in opposition to this proposal. And I thank you, Madam Speaker.